Recording in progress. So, welcome again. Teresa Church is operations manager for the Climate Solutions Accelerator, and she is the person who takes care of all of our social media platforms: Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, and she has a good amount of experience in this area and knowledge. And she's going to go over the basics, and we will have time for questions. Actually, as we're going along, if a question comes up specific to what we're talking about and you want to ask it then, feel free to use the chat, or you can just ask out loud. You can use the raise hand function in Zoom. If you click on reactions and then raise hand, you can do that if you like. Or with a small group, it's probably okay to just jump in. But yes, feel free to use the chat. But at the end, we should also have time for questions then. So if you do want to save questions for the end, that's okay too. But welcome, Megan. I was just saying how Teresa Church, our operations manager, will be our facilitator and presenter this evening. So without further ado, I'll turn it over to Teresa.
Thanks, Brady. Hi, everyone. Again, I'm Teresa. I have been with the Accelerator since last August, so I've almost made it a year. And I don't know a lot of people, so it's nice to meet everybody involved with Color Your Community Green. Like Brady said, I've been doing social media for nonprofits for about 5 years now. And this training tonight is just a really basic overview of all of the social media platforms. I'll be focusing a little bit more on Facebook and LinkedIn, and I'll tell you why shortly. But hopefully this will spark some additional, trainings or future trainings or anything else that you'd like to know about. But for now, we'll just kind of start with the basics and do kind of like a 101. Oops. Here we go. So I thought that we could start, this conversation by just kind of talking about some social media best practices to consider when kind of deciding, what platform you'd like to use and how you would like to use your platform to kind of, for whatever you're using it for, Color Your Community Green or any other kind of community stuff that you're working on. But I think it's best to know, and again, actually, I'll just say that we'll just frame this whole conversation tonight in Color Your Community Green, because that's what you're all involved in. So I know a little bit about kind of the teams and what goes on, but it's great to kind of consider, who your target audience is for your social media platforms. And the first thing you might consider is, how you want to use the platforms. Like, for example, is it more of an internal kind of thing that you're using for communications, in which case something like Facebook groups might be most appropriate to kind of communicate with other folks in your group? Or are you looking to do a little more external communicating, in which case a public facing profile might work best as well? Another thing to consider is, establishing your voice and tone and kind of to help you figure out how you're going to communicate with your audience. So first you want to establish who your audience is, and then kind of decide what it is that you want to convey on your social media. Like the Accelerator uses all of our social media as a main kind of call to action. We post lots of things and ways to get involved, not only with what we're doing, but what other organizations are doing as well. So I like to think of those as kind of calls to action. Or are you using your social media platforms to kind of market what you have going on? Again, in both cases, a public-facing profile would make more sense. And we'll talk about how all of that would work with each of these different platforms. And then just making sure that your calls to action are clear. Like, again, what is it that you're trying to convey as a Color Your Community Green team to the public or to the other folks in your organization? And I think most importantly, lastly, for best practices is to understand the strengths and weaknesses of each platform, which is kind of what we'll go over a little more in-depthly from here. So like I said, I'm going to focus a lot on Facebook and LinkedIn in this training. And I think, mostly because that's kind of what the Accelerator has used to convey our messages and to connect with our audience. And also, Facebook is still one of the biggest and most popular platforms out there. Facebook is kind of like the platform where not only do we have, this age group of 25 to 34 years old. I mean, that's just a median for the group. But we also have folks that are younger than that. And also we have folks that are older than that. And this is the one platform where, like, speaking from my perspective, like my parents and my grandparents are on this platform. And it seems to be the one that folks have gravitated towards the most. It's probably the oldest of all of them as well. But definitely, I would say that Facebook is the one that you want to have when it comes to, deciding what social media platforms are best, for your team. And all to say too, you don't have to have every single platform. And in fact, I would actually advise you not to have every single platform to do, effective social media marketing and communication. And that kind of stuff. I totally think that more is not always better when it comes to social media. So let's talk about some of the kind of like key features of Facebook. And I don't know, I'm sure that you're all pretty familiar with Facebook. Does anybody not have a Facebook? Everybody has a Facebook? Yeah, we all do. So, Facebook is a really visual oriented. Let me just actually pause and go back. Like, Facebook has a variety of features, and it has some of the most features compared to the other platforms as well. And we use them in different ways, all of these platforms. But Facebook, for example, is one of those platforms where you can still include a hyperlink, which I think is really, really important when it comes to calls to action or sharing events and that kind of thing, because you can click right within your post a link. And I'll show you an example of that in just a minute. But some of the key things that are important for Facebook is that it's a very visual oriented platform. It's also a text oriented platform. So it's one of those where you want to combine text and a visual to make a compelling post and to get the reach that you'd like to see from posting on Facebook. It also has reels and stories, which are a little like newer to Facebook. When Facebook originally came out, it wasn't like a reel and story platform. That kind of belonged to Instagram for a while. But of course, Facebook has kind of joined on with that. And Facebook and Instagram kind of are together in something that's called Meta right now. So you can track everything through this one platform. So we'll look at that as well in just a moment. I included here as well live stream. So you can connect your Zoom to Facebook, which I think is really cool and could be probably really important for Color Your Community Green, because I know that a lot of the teams do trainings and different things like that. So you can stream live from your Facebook page or even a group page as well. You also can create events, which I think are super helpful as well. I know that so I'm like kind of the older millennial generation, but I tend to use Facebook solely for finding events and what's going on in the area. So it's really awesome, an awesome way to kind of post what you have going on. So if you're holding an event or a training or anything like that, you can use Facebook to post your event, and you can post more than one event at one time. As mentioned, and I know some of you maybe already have a Facebook group for your Color Community Green, but that is kind of a great tool as well with Facebook. So in order to have a group, you have to have a profile. So, someone could have a personal profile. I'll just pick someone's name. Like Jenna could have her personal Jenna Welch profile, and then she could create a group called Color Fairport Green or whatever. So it wouldn't necessarily have to be a public facing thing, but there could be a group that she could invite all of the other Color Fairport Green people to. And it could be a really great tool for communication without having a public facing group, a public facing page. The other cool thing about Facebook is that you can tag partner organizations or, people as well. But I think that that's really important for, again, getting more reach on your posts. And if you want to ensure that other groups or folks are kind of seeing what you're posting or bring it to their attention, more times than not, it's much easier to ignore a post than it is to have someone be tagged and you get a notification and then you kind of have to look at it, which I think is pretty compelling for when you're trying to get something across. So let me see what we have next, and then I'll go to our Facebook page. Okay, so we'll talk about that in a minute, but again, this is like a real basic training. So I just wanted to make sure that, you all have Facebook, but just kind of wanted to show some of the different things that we've talked about so far. So I'm just going to click on our Climate Solutions Accelerator page, which I'm assuming most of you are familiar with. Let's just see. Okay. So, this is our page. One thing that you can also do with your posts is you can feature them, which means you can tag them to the top so that no matter whatever you post after that, these ones will still kind of stick out. So I like to include kind of the important ones that are kind of ongoing here. Like we're hiring, that's going to be happening for a couple of weeks. So we want to make sure that that post is still visible. We had an action alert when the wildfires from Canada initially started as a way to kind of get folks to donate. So I've kind of kept that up there as well. So one of the things I wanted to point out is in this post that I did today about the climate action plan in Monroe County is this link, right? So you can hyperlink and that'll bring you, right to that page from within your post. So I think that that's one really awesome plus about Facebook when you're trying to kind of post something on a public facing page. So again, this is our public facing page. This is just a way to communicate to the public whatever it is you have going on. And a group would be more of like a closed thing to communicate internally. Does anyone have any questions about any of that so far before I kind of shift to, how you can look at how your posts are doing? Okay, so feel free to jump in at any point if you need a little clarification on anything or have a question. Again, I think most of us kind of know Facebook and kind of how it works. I think it's just interesting to note that with Facebook, it has a lot of reach in terms of different age groups and who's on it. So I think it's one of those kind of keepers to really consider. If you're not going to have any other social media at all, I would say definitely you want to have a Facebook page. So I mentioned before that Instagram and Facebook have kind of combined into one. It's called Meta. And from the Meta Business Suite, you can kind of see how your posts are doing. And this is what we use to track our reach and our likes and how many followers and that kind of thing. Hey, look, Brady, he's a lot of comments on our social media. And, Facebook also has a planner as well. But I'll come back to that a little bit after. I'll also kind of touch a little bit if we have time on creating graphics for your social media as well. But if you just were to click on Insights, you can kind of see, your Facebook reach, your Instagram reach. That's the weekly one, but this is just the overall, and these look pretty good for us. So it's a great way to kind of track how your social media is doing. We have, over 2,000 Facebook page likes. We have followers. So Facebook does this thing where you can follow organizations and you can also like them. If you like a page, then you get the notifications in your little, in the notification part of Facebook. You can also track your followers here. So, this is really only important if, down the line, you want to start kind of tracking how your social media is doing. So yeah, let's flip back to our kind of, so this was just a little bit of an explanation on the different insights that you can kind of glean from Facebook. But if you're just getting started on a Facebook page, for your Color Community Green team, this is definitely something that you can utilize down the line. I would say definitely just make sure that you're getting a page set up to start. How many of your Color Community Green teams How many of you all have Facebook pages for your teams? Great, cool. Definitely a good one to have for sure. Oops, okay. So we're gonna talk about Instagram now. I am a huge fan of Instagram because I love that Instagram is more image focused than it is. I mean, you can also add text to Instagram kind of the same way you can add Facebook or add text to Facebook. But Instagram is definitely, the main feature of it is the visual aspect of it. I know for me, at least when I'm scrolling through Instagram, I'm more focused on the visual than I am, on all of the words that are, or the text that are underneath it. So that's something to consider when you're kind of pulling together images, for your different platforms. I think, interestingly, Instagram tends to be something that's used alongside other platforms, meaning that folks don't tend to have just an Instagram account. Folks tend to have a Facebook account and an Instagram account. And I think that that mostly has to do with the fact that Facebook kind of came first. So most folks are plugged into kind of more than one platform, which is great for considering, cross-utilizing and cross-marketing and that kind of thing. The age group for Instagram does tend to be a little bit younger. It's 18 to 34. Which is also something to consider when you're, thinking about your audience for Color Your Community Green. And you all will know your audience much better than I will. And it's possible that maybe this is an age group that you want to target, but maybe it's not an age group that's already involved with your Color Your Community Green. So maybe Instagram might be a way to kind of reach this particular age group if that's something that you're interested in doing. On top of visuals, Instagram is, extraordinarily famous for stories. I use stories a lot with the Accelerator, just because it's a really easy way to tag other people and to just kind of throw it up in a story. And if you're not familiar with the story feature on Instagram, it's kind of like I think of it as almost watching TV, like everyone's stories just continue scrolling across the screen, sorry, instead of you having to kind of scroll through. And I'll show you in a minute, actually, to kind of explain that better. There is a live option as well on Instagram. There's a Reels option, so you can create longer. Stories tend to be like a minute or so, and Reels can be multiple minutes. So just some different options for how you want to kind of express what you're trying to get across. Live is definitely a pretty popular function on Instagram as well. It definitely takes some time and some getting used to. I don't always utilize that for the Accelerator because it's again, it's kind of just about knowing your audience and kind of the things that they might want to see. I personally really like Instagram for hashtags. You can search hashtags, and hashtags are a nice way to kind of categorize what it is you're getting across. We use climate action now a lot, climate solutions now for a hashtag, and we often use climate change as a general hashtag as well. And I'll show you what those look like as well. So we're going to look at the desktop version in just a minute. Instagram is kind of interesting in that the app has many more features than the desktop version. And it's much easier to utilize on your phone as an app than it is on the desktop. So that's also something to consider with who's running your social media. And if it's you, do you want to be kind of plugged in on your phone? Do you want to have that option, kind of thinking about your work-life balance and that kind of thing? The app definitely is more helpful than the desktop version. So let's not turn on notifications. So this is the back end of our Instagram account. I'll just show you our profile really quick. And as you can see, when you look at the post, it's all like the first thing you see are visuals. So you have to click into the post to see any text, which is unlike Facebook. So it's great to have some really awesome visuals so that when folks scroll through, they're really interested in what meets the eye kind of initially, and that's kind of what tends to pull people in. So like Facebook, you can tag posts as well. And you can also have, a little description of what it is you do. Here you can see the number of posts we have, our followers, who we're following. And oops, hold on one second. I'm just going to close my door. Be right back. Okay, that was my dog, Zoe. I had a feeling she'd make an appearance on this. So let's go back to the back end of Instagram. And again, this looks a little bit different on the app, but up here is kind of the story function. So we're going to go ahead and click on Taylor's. She's our Vista at the accelerator. But these are just like, live things that you can kind of post in your story. And this is kind of what I meant by like watching TV. You can just kind of like scroll through them. And you can include links in these as well. So most importantly with Instagram, you cannot include a hyperlink within the text of your post, but you can include a link option in the stories. I tend to think that that's kind of a downfall of Instagram. So again, these are just the stories we're going to scroll through. But see if I can get out of here. Computer's going a little slow. There we go. Yeah, so, when you create a post, unfortunately, you can't kind of include a hyperlink. And let me show you a better example of that as well. Yeah, see, like right here, you can sort of say where you want folks to go, but unfortunately, it doesn't click through. So I think that that's kind of a downfall for Instagram. But again, it's knowing your audience and who you want to connect to and how you want to use the different platforms. So if you feel like you're going to be posting a lot of links and stuff like that, maybe right now Instagram isn't kind of what you go for and you kind of stick with Facebook. Like I said before, you don't have to have every single social media platform. But this is definitely a great one if you are, taking a lot of pictures and you have a lot of visuals that you can show your audience. I'll just show you really quickly the hashtag. These are just different profiles that I've searched recently. But the hashtag function is nice because you can search the hashtag for different posts related to it. Inspiration for different things to kind of share. Oh, Barbie's taking over climate change now too. But it's a way, people use this function. People actually search the hashtags to look for different things. So it's a way to kind of bring folks to your posts, which is really cool. I think that's mostly Instagram. There's also a messaging function. I didn't mention that about Facebook, but both have options to kind of message people if that feels like it's important to, your Color Your Community Green team. So I'm just going to go back to our slideshow here. Okay, so just a couple of insights, if you were to get an Instagram account, again, you would use that meta function in Facebook. You can the nice thing about Facebook and Instagram is that they're on the same platform, essentially, especially when it comes to insights. So you could kind of look at your content and how well it's doing all in the same place. There's followers, just like Facebook. You can also check and see how many new followers you have and the reach of your content as well. But again, that's kind of more important a little bit later after you have kind of established yourself on this particular platform. But let's go ahead and talk about some of the other, actually, let me just ask here too, does anyone have an Instagram account for their Color Your Community Green? Jenna does. Yeah. So I think too, it's kind of deciding like who's going to run your social media as well, and how much responsibility do you want to take on for, being responsible for kind of creating posts as well. Here's the sole person doing it, again, like I would encourage you to just choose one and get really good at getting your message across and getting your followers on one instead of maybe doing multiple at one time, just to kind of keep things in check. Wanted to just quickly talk about some other platforms. LinkedIn is, so I think earlier I said I was going to focus on LinkedIn and Facebook, but actually what I meant is I was going to focus on Facebook and Instagram. LinkedIn is great. We use LinkedIn for the accelerator as well. Some interesting demographics is that it does tend to be an older age group, and it tends to be folks that are kind of established in their careers. And I recently read that there's research that suggests there's folks that have higher incomes and at least a bachelor's degree who have profiles on LinkedIn. So that's kind of interesting when you're considering, who your audience is and who you want your messages to reach. LinkedIn, in my experience, again, as like an older millennial, tends to be very professional oriented. And it's also a platform that folks use to look for jobs. So I'll just pull ours up here really quickly as well. I would say, LinkedIn, kind of one of the lesser important platforms probably for Color Your Community Green. But if you're not familiar with LinkedIn, this is kind of, let me just view it as a member for the accelerator. It's a really great way if you don't have one personally to kind of connect with other folks professionally. I don't know that a lot of organizations do use it, but again, it's just kind of weighing if this one is like really important to kind of the work that you're doing and the messaging that you need to get across. Just like Facebook and Instagram, you can create posts. LinkedIn is one of those ones where you can hyperlink. So, for our organization, that's really important. You can also hashtag as well. And again, visuals are nice for LinkedIn too. We use it a lot for just sharing other folks' events like Amped, and for getting other folks to share what we have going on as well. So if that's not important to kind of, your Color Your Community Green team at this point, then that's okay. Maybe something to add to your, bucket of tools a little later on. But I would say, and I totally misspoke earlier, Facebook and Instagram, I would say, top two for considering social media platforms for the work that you do. Going right back to the slideshow here. YouTube, I included this one. I'm sure everyone's familiar with YouTube. It's a weighted, it's a video platform, but also interestingly, a lot of people use YouTube as like a search engine. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And the age group does tend to be a little bit younger. So, if you feel like having videos would be an important part of your messaging, then maybe YouTube is something that would be a helpful platform for you to have. I have Twitter down here. I didn't say much about Twitter because I don't really like Twitter. And Twitter is very controversial. If you're not up on Mr. Musk, I would, you're not missing much on Twitter, I would say. It's been really, really powerful and impactful previously for news and politics. And kind of, that is the point of Twitter, is like news and politics and like really little bits of text as well. Twitter is one of those platforms where you can post multiple times all day long. So that's actually something that I didn't mention in this, and I'm just going to add it in now, but Instagram is a platform where it's okay to post, multiple times a day. The stories function is great if you want to post multiple times a day. Facebook is a little more relaxed when it comes to that. Like the suggestion for posting on Facebook is 1 to 3 times a week to ensure that your name remains out there. So a lot of people think that, again, I'm of the camp of like less is more, that you have to constantly be posting. And that's not necessarily the case. So if you are, someone where your group isn't going to be like wanting to post all that much, then Facebook could be a really great option. If your team is going to have like a lot to say and you might want to be posting multiple times a week or every day, then maybe Instagram is a great platform for you to choose, or maybe you have both. But it's certainly not something you have to feel like you have to post on every day, multiple times a day or anything like that. I try to keep it between 1 and 3 times a week for Facebook. Anyways, so that was a little side note. Back to Twitter. Twitter is controversial and it's actually lost a lot of its following most recently. And we use it at the accelerator. Our policy person, Claire, uses it a lot for like policy updates and budget updates and different things happening locally and regionally. I don't tend to use it so much for like the overall accelerator message, events, awareness posts. It is good for calls to action. And I have also utilized Twitter for like our media list to get in touch with journalists. Again, I don't love it. And it's just kind of one of those things. Is it going to be useful for you? Is it worth your time to have a Twitter account and that kind of thing? And then most recently, Threads. When I actually started creating this presentation a couple weeks ago, I think that was exactly when Threads became live. And if you're not familiar with Threads, I believe that it is from the creator of Facebook and Instagram. And it's really similar to Twitter, but essentially it's like where all the people that left Twitter are going to kind of have these ongoing conversations and these ongoing posts. From what I understand, Threads wants to remain non-political, which is interesting. I haven't delved too deeply into Threads yet at this point, so I don't have like a ton to say. And I was just kind of thinking too, it's like another social media platform that I have to think about, and another social media platform that I have to learn. And I haven't decided yet if it's worth the time or not, although I did create one for the accelerator. So don't have a ton to say about that, but I know that they're trying to keep it clean and not have the drama of the news and politics from Twitter. So interesting side note about this new platform. And I think that was all that I included for platforms. Yeah. So I'm going to talk a little bit about graphics with the time that we have left. Does anyone have any questions about any of the platforms, or if I missed anything or anything that you're curious about?
I had a question related to the meta function. I'm not familiar with that. And when you showed Climate Solutions Accelerator meta page, it said it was a meta function business suite, meta business suite.
Yeah.
Is that something that you pay for? Is that free? Yeah,
it's free. Yeah, it comes with your business profile. So, that is one thing to say too. Like with Facebook, you may all have personal pages, but if you were to go and set up a Color Your Community Green page, you'd set that up as an organization or a business page, and that meta function would be included with that as well. And it just, it automatically just starts to track from the moment that you create your page. And those insights start to build over time so that you can look for trends and, what worked well for your posting and that kind of thing.
Okay, so just to clarify, if we individually set up a Color Penfield Green Facebook page under our own personal account, that would not be part of our platform. We wouldn't have a meta function, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, you'd want to have a business.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Let's talk about graphics. Because graphics are really important to your posts. As you've noticed, pretty much everything is graphic oriented, especially Instagram, but also Facebook and LinkedIn. And graphics are kind of what pull the attention towards your post. So one of the things that I wanted to just kind of talk about is just choosing, the copy that you want to put up on your social media. Here I just put keep your graphics simple and beautiful images perform better. but anything that's compelling to the eye, tends to perform better. And with the algorithms of Facebook and Instagram, posts that have like people's faces in it definitely tend to do better than just a plain old graphic. So I am just going to pull up our social media really quickly to bring this point home about legibility. So let me just go back to our Instagram. So for example, these pictures here of, some of the Color Your Community Green for the most recent tour that we did, these posts tend to do better than a post like this one, right, where it's just kind of static and it has text. But one of the things let me just go back here really quickly. One of the things to consider with your graphics is, making sure that everything's legible and clear for sure. But also, if you're going to place text in your graphic, just make sure that the text in your posts kind of matches the text in your graphic, even if it's repetitive, because we want to make sure that for accessibility purposes that everything matches, and everything that for the folks that only want to look at the visual, they're getting the same information for the folks that want to read your post. And this will make sense in one more minute. I'm going to pull up Canva. So, you're probably thinking it's really easy to post pictures that you actually take. But what if you want to create like a graphic that looks cool or that has text in it, or something like this that we do for our volunteer spotlights? So there's a program called Canva. And I would definitely suggest kind of utilizing this for your posts. It's free, and it's a really great way to handle like sizing your posts automatically without having to kind of manually do it. And Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, they all have slightly differing sizes for posts that kind of work better. But Canva is like really accessible if you know nothing about graphic design. Canva kind of makes it really easy with templates to create different types of really cool social media posts. So we have, we're a 501c3 nonprofit, the Accelerator. So we actually can get the premium version of Canva for free. But even if you don't have that designation, there is still a free version that has like tons of templates to use for your social media. So I'm just going to pull this up to show you an example of creating a post. I think I just clicked the Facebook post of creating, a template or using a template to create social media posts. And it makes it really, really easy. Let's see. Wait, I use this one a lot here for different ideas to do like our social media posts. So these are all just like different templates that you can use to kind of craft your own message. And these are, free. So we have the pro version, but it'll show you the ones that are free and the ones that aren't for the free version as well. So this template, for example, is, everything can be edited. So the graphics, the words, and all of that kind of stuff. And I think that this is really cool for kind of crafting your own message. And especially if you're not super savvy with like graphic design, you don't have to be for this program. It's a really great way to play with different elements and different visuals. And I can just show you a couple of the ones that I've sort of created for the Accelerator. Let's see, where are these? Yeah, here we go. So again, these are just kind of some of the different ways that we've incorporated our pictures, our own pictures, into different kinds of templates. So if you follow us on social media, you'll see these quite a bit. But yeah, I just wanted to, bring that to your attention as a really great resource that's free, and free is really great. And I really like the function of just like pre-sizing things for your social media posts so that you don't have to worry about whether or not you have the right size. Finally, one kind of cool, addition to Canva is that there is a content calendar so that you can schedule your posts kind of beforehand. Facebook also has that as well. And I can just pull that up really quickly. So sometimes it can be nice to, depending on how much time you're thinking about spending on your social media for your Color Your Community Green team, if you have ideas for content and different things that you want to share throughout the month, you can actually just pre-schedule everything, which can be a nice way to get it all done. Or if you have time, then you don't have to use a scheduling calendar. But it can be a nice way to kind of stay organized with your messaging and that kind of thing, and not forget some of the things that you want to share. So I'm just going to really quickly, before we do some questions, show you the Facebook function of the content calendar. So again, this was kind of our business portion of the meta for the insights. And there's also a planner as well, where you can, pre-schedule, and you can also look at your month to see what you've already posted and kind of decide what you want to post going forward. So I think that that's a really cool function for staying organized. And yeah. So I think that I'll pause right there. It's 6:45. I think that that's everything that I had, to see if anyone has any questions. And again, just a reminder that this was kind of a really generalized overview of social media. After this, feel free to let Brady know if something piqued your interest or you feel like a training on something more specific would be helpful. We'd be happy to, dive in on some other topics, look at specific things that you're interested in for social media, and that kind of thing in the future.
Hi, this is Tracy.
Hi.
And I have a question about hashtags. You mentioned them earlier. Could you show an example of how they're used and when you would use them?
Yeah, so hashtags can be used on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. I think that they're more powerful on Instagram. At least that's how I tend to use them. So I'm going to show you on Instagram. So let me just. So here's this example of our volunteer spotlight of some of the hashtags that we use. So Climate Solutions Now is a really specific hashtag that that the accelerator uses. And volunteer is a more generalized hashtag that everyone uses. So basically you can sort of use hashtags that already exist, and there's pretty much a hashtag for everything, or you can come up with your own. And it's a nice way to kind of categorize your posts. And also folks can type in that hashtag and see, all of the different posts that are associated with it. So these are some of our posts here for Climate Solutions Now. This is ours. But as you can see, other people also use this hashtag as well, Climate Solutions Now. And it's a way to kind of get conversations going. Lots of people use them to connect with other posts and other folks. And different types of, like social movements have occurred from people using the same hashtag to bring awareness to a certain topic. So you can, use the search function to kind of find any hashtag at all. Let's actually, I don't know if any Color Your Community Green has any. Are there any Color Your Community Green business sauce? Let's see. Yeah, it looks like it. Color Pittsburgh Green uses it. Looks like it's just Color Pittsburgh Green. So, I would say, like, if you're going to use hashtags, like, you could start off with Color Your Community Green. And then all of your posts would kind of be in the same spot with Color Pittsburgh Green, Color whatever green. So that would be a really easy one to use. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. And hashtags are also, you can use them at certain times. So for example, the accelerator for our summit that we had, we used Climate Solutions Summit for all of our posts that were related to the summit. And that is kind of the only time that we use it. You can use hashtags for different posts. You can use more than one hashtag, as you can see here. Color Pittsburgh Green actually even has their own hashtag. And it's not like you have to create one or do anything special. It's just when you create a post, you literally would do hashtag Color Fairport Green or Color Greece Green. So there's no like creating one. It's just you start using it and it kind of takes off from there.
Also, Teresa, I don't know if you want to mention this, but within the Meta Business Suite, when you're creating a post that you might cross-post across, Instagram and Facebook, you can, I don't know if you want to show us them or not, but you can type in ideas for hashtags and it will show you the number of times a particular hashtag has been used or how relevant it is, or it'll show you like a whole batch of stuff that's related to it that might be more relevant to what you're doing. So you can, you have an idea of where you want to start, but then you kind of fine tune the keyword phrase that you're using based on the information it's showing you.
Yeah, exactly. And Jenna, so are you from Fairport Green?
Yeah.
Do you use, what social media platforms have you used for Color Fairport Green?
We have a Facebook page, a Facebook group, and an Instagram account.
So do you just, because we don't really use groups a ton for the accelerator, would you mind just like, what's your experience with group versus the page? Do you have like a preference for your Color Your Community Green group?
Well, they serve two different purposes, right?
Yeah.
So the group started actually, I think before it was called Color Fairport Green, as a Facebook group of moms within the Fairport school district who wanted to make a change in the cafeteria. So they already had a Facebook group. And then as I developed the website and we started getting our arms around more of the messaging and our presence as a group, I made a website and then we decided to just add the layer of the public facing page and the Instagram account. So that would be our face to the world versus the group. The group has grown. It's got like 300 and something people in it. But there are some challenges because something I just wanted to mention is that these days there's this just putting your message out there it's not a straightforward thing. The algorithms, everyone's experience on their phone is tailored to them and the kinds of things that they search for. So you really don't have a ton of control over who sees what you put out there, and that's why I used hashtags and that kind of thing. But it's getting more complex. So even people in our Facebook group, even the four of us admins who run it, sometimes don't see each other's posts. So it's a jungle out there, and I just want to make sure that people don't get, it's so overwhelming. I'm a web marketing professional. I've been doing this for 20 years and it's still overwhelming to me. And so I hesitate, it's just everybody just take it easy, because it really is a lot. It's a lot to take in, and it's a full-time job. So don't get upset if you don't understand insights. Maybe you don't need to know that right now. Don't get upset if you don't know your audience. Take it one step at a time and do what you can and let the rest go, because it really is very, very big. And it requires an overall vision for, how it interacts with their website and there's just so many moving parts. It's really tough to do a deep dive on any of this in a volunteer capacity for someone definitely who isn't a marketer, So I'll end by just saying something that I would dream of for the Color Your Community Green network would be some sort of way to help all of our groups not be reinventing the wheel. I just, you know, everyone shouldn't have to learn social media from scratch. And there must be ways that we can streamline marketing materials and messaging and that kind of thing. So some of us who have the ability to throw together graphics and messaging really quick could help others and that kind of thing, because it's just a lot.
Yeah, definitely. I can definitely confirm that it is a lot, social media. So, that's kind of why I wanted to do like a general overview and just tell you all of the different ones, because you definitely don't need all of them, and definitely on a volunteer capacity. Like, what I tend to think about too is like, what social media platform do you like? Are you going to want to spend more time on Facebook, or are you going to want to spend more time on something like Instagram? I know for me, in my position, I really like Instagram. So I tend to put a lot of effort into our Instagram. Not that I don't put effort into our Facebook and those other things, but definitely enjoy being on Instagram more. So I would, consider your own personal interest too, if you're the person that's going to kind of be running the social media as well.
Teresa, Victoria has had her hand up. So, oh yeah.
Yeah.
Go
Okay.
ahead, Victoria.
Thank you. Sorry, I can't see everybody.
No, that's okay. I noticed your Facebook page said Meta Facebook, and I didn't realize there's a separate page for organizations. So I can just Google it and find out how to get that. We're a nonprofit also.
Yeah, like when you create a Facebook page, it'll ask you, I think, if you're an individual or creating it for an organization.
And they will put it into Meta if it's an organization.
It's all Meta. Every Meta
All
is, yeah. So I
Okay.
guess, yeah, Meta is, I don't know, Meta is Facebook now.
Well, I
Instagram is
understand.
Meta.
I
Yeah,
probably,
yeah.
it's probably a particular, when you're doing the social media, you may go to a page where it says that. I just haven't seen the logo.
Yeah.
before.
Yeah, the Meta thing is a bit newer. And one thing that I'll add too, like with the organizational page, and something to consider, like who's going to be helping on your team and who's all going to be doing this. Like, you can add administrators as well, which can be a nice way to kind of share the burden of social media if there's more than one person. So having additional administrators to be able to post and that kind of thing can be a really nice way to have other people helping.
Thanks.
Yeah. Does anyone else have any questions?
I got one, Teresa.
Yeah.
And first, I just want to mention that I'm a little bit more of a fan of Twitter than Teresa, but the Threads thing is interesting. It'll be interesting how that one plays out. But considering that they're trying to stay out of politics, I think there will be a space for Twitter there. And something I like about Twitter is that it is often the best way to reach elected officials, especially at the national and state level. I think pretty much every state legislator, member of Congress has a Twitter account, and just by adding them, you can directly contact them, and they may respond, they may not, but if you get a bunch of people contacting them, it'll show up on their radar. So I do like having that direct access to elected officials. People on the local level, that kind of hit or miss. They may, or like town, city level, they may or may not have an account, but state and national level can get to people that way. And also, if you follow them, you can see what their priorities are based on what they're talking about. Although if they're on Facebook, Instagram, you can see that there as well. But my question is about Facebook, and I was in a training a little while back, and the presenter said that they consider, or in their experience, Facebook is the main source of news in the different rural communities where they live. So I wanted to ask if how that resonates, or how well that does or does not resonate with you, Teresa, in general, but also where you live.
Yeah, so I think that that's very true. And, I use Facebook. I think initially I mentioned I use it for like finding local events, but I do also use it to like for local news as well, because, different news outlets will post. I also use it for community groups. A lot of communities that so I live in Auburn, actually. I'm not from Rochester. I live about an hour away. So I'm in, Auburn community groups. I'm in Seneca Falls community groups because I spend a lot of time out there. And it's a nice way to kind of get a feel for what's happening in the community. And as a page, like the accelerator, for example, can join different community groups and post into these groups as well, which can be a really nice way to reach additional people to share your events, and different things like that. So, I think it's a great way to, and I do think a lot of people use it to find news, which can be, problematic as well. But that's personally how I use it too, like to see what's going on in the community. So I do think that it's important for community purposes, Facebook.
Is there an etiquette about posting on other people's sites?
Yeah, I would say, and I think it's probably maybe a different conversation, but it's like definitely not just joining random groups, I suppose, and like posting your stuff. It's definitely like joining groups that make sense and sharing messages that make sense to the group and that kind of thing. I can't think of a group that the accelerator is in off the top of my head on Facebook, but I know that there's some where it makes more sense to share things like related to the summit event that we put on, and maybe that's the only thing throughout the year that I would share in that group, as opposed to like the things other things we have going on throughout the year. Yeah, social media etiquette could be a whole other training for sure. For sure.
Mhm. Good idea.
Yeah. I see it's 6:59. Any other last questions? Well, hopefully you found this to be helpful in just getting a kind of general understanding and maybe thinking a little bit more about what social media platform makes sense for your organization or your team. Feel free to send any feedback to Brady or any ideas for future trainings. And it was really fun to meet all of you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Teresa.
Thanks very much, Teresa.
You're welcome.
And I will be sharing the recording once I get the video processed and everything, but I'm going to stop the recording now.
Will you be posting it on Slack, Brady? Where will you post it?
Yes, I will post a link to the recording on Slack. I'll also email it to everyone who registered for
Great.
this.
Thank you.